And the Prime Minister pointed out that although Franklin was from an ordinary family and did not even complete his formal education, he became a scientist, a social commentator, a diplomat, and a man whose wisdom is still heeded 2 centuries later. And one example of that wisdom is his saying. He had many sayings, but one of them is that energy and persistence conquer all things. And that is an appropriate theme for us today, because through our energy and our persistence, and through our joint efforts over a number of years now, the United States and India are moving ahead on all fronts, politically, economically, culturally, and from the standpoint of security. So, my colleagues, I am really pleased to open our first U.S.-India strategic and commercial dialogue. And we have elevated this commercial component of our dialogue for a simple reason, because in today's era, foreign policy is economic policy, and economic policy is foreign policy. They are two sides of the same coin. And so I hope that we're going to take full advantage of the chance that this dialogue affords us to expand our bilateral cooperation. I first visited India more than 2 decades ago when I was a youngish member of the United States Senate. The Cold War was over, and traditional relationships were very much in flux. And I was already committed to the idea that the United States and India could work more closely together and get over the hurdles that existed during the Cold War period. So leaders were then thinking about how to adjust to a new economic and political reality. And that's when I met a new finance minister, Minister Singh, who later became the Prime Minister. And we began to see how the relationship between our two countries could change, and change for the better. Traveling to Delhi, Mumbai, and Bangalore with executives from high-tech industries, I was struck by India's economic promise, then still in its emerging stage in terms of this modern era, and also struck by its entrepreneurial passion. I saw a country that was waiting to just burst out of the seams, and that is exactly what the world has been seeing ever since. The result has done more than transform India's economy. It has also brought the United States and India closer and created some truly unprecedented opportunities for the future. Today we have an agenda that is very long, not quite as long as the Ganges River, but a long agenda. It includes building on the progress that we have already made in the field of sustainable energy, the environment, curbing greenhouse gas emissions, and we're delighted to have high-level experts here, our leader on negotiations, Todd Stern, and others who are going to talk about this. This topic alone validates our dialogue, because unless our countries lead on these issues, meaningful gains will not happen. And that is obviously, in face of what science is telling us, unacceptable. We've made a good start, but we have to do more within and beyond our boundaries to drive home the urgency of growing economically in ways that are green and clean. And what is clear to everybody is that the choices that one makes in order to grow green and clean do not mean a choice between growth or the environment. Both can take place simultaneously. I'm very pleased that Secretary Moniz and Minister Goyal will join Minister Swaraj and me to discuss energy and climate during the Strategic Track plenary. The fact is that our economic partnership is already growing stronger by the day. Annual trade in goods and services between the United States and India has grown nearly 5-fold since the year 2000 to just over $100 billion. And my government agrees with Prime Minister Modi that we can increase that figure to more than $500 billion in the years immediately ahead. Bilateral foreign direct investment stands today at more than $35 billion. It can go much higher. And right now, our economic connection supports hundreds of thousands of jobs in each of our countries. But we're not satisfied because we all know that there are many more openings to explore. We want to continue the momentum, and that is what the commercial component of this dialogue will seek to do. On the security side, our collaboration is always also growing in ways that benefit both of our countries, our citizens, and actually winds up benefiting the world as a result. I spoke last night of India's heroic role in rescuing people, including many Americans who have been trapped by violence in Yemen, and also of India's timely and life-saving response to the earthquake in Nepal. We're also working together in the Indian Ocean. Our joint naval exercise, Malabar, continues to grow in complexity and now includes Japan. We have agreed on a new 10-year defense framework and also on a shared strategic vision for the Asia-Pacific and Indian Ocean that stresses regional security, maritime law, peaceful resolution of disputes, and economic connectivity across the region. The United States is one of India's largest defense suppliers, and we are partnering to develop and produce advanced defense systems, including through our aircraft carrier working group. And as we gather here today, our annual Army-to-Army exercise, the Yudh Abhyas, is underway in Washington State. On health, India and the United States are striving to end preventative maternal and child deaths in developing countries. Meanwhile, we are looking forward to launching a new discussion on oceans conservation, and we're also building an important and far-reaching partnership in the crucial areas of Internet governance. So we have a lot of progress to show since the first edition of this dialogue, when it was the security dialogue back in 2010. We also know that the greatest potential of our partnership can be found in the innovative and entrepreneurial spirit of our citizens. India and the United States are both defined by our belief that the future can absolutely be made better than the past. So we also share inherent sense of optimism as people, and we believe in freedom and in the rights of all. We are aspirational, driven by the insecurity, not driven by insecurity or by fear, but we are driven, I think, both of us, by hope. So today, it is clear our destinies are converging. Prime Minister Modi will meet with President Obama next week, and we will work to find ways to play to our strengths. And I'm confident that together we can help to shape a world that is more secure, peaceful, and prosperous than it was before our efforts came together. In closing, our teams have a lot to discuss. I look forward to doing so in a climate of genuine warmth and friendship. And now I'm very pleased to yield the floor to my colleague, Foreign Minister Swaraj.
Thank you, Secretary Kerry. Secretary Kerry, Secretary Pritzker, Secretary Moniz, my colleague Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, Minister Piyush Goyal, Foreign Secretary, Ambassador Richard Verma, and Ambassador Arun Singh, distinguished delegates, and our media friends. Let me begin by thanking Secretary Kerry, Secretary Pritzker, and the United States government for hosting the first meeting of the India-US Strategic and Commercial Dialogue. It gives me and my other ministerial colleagues immense pleasure to guide the deliberations along with cabinet-level colleagues from the US government and with officials on both sides. Let me also take this opportunity to thank the US government for the warm welcome and the hospitality extended to the Indian delegation. Friends, these are busy times in India-US relations. The impressive intensity, scale and level of achievements in our bilateral engagement since last year is a testimony to the leadership's direct supervision and the tremendous importance attached to the bilateral relationship by our leaders, Prime Minister Modi and President Obama. At a very fundamental level, our popular and bipartisan support in both the countries and shared values of democracy, freedom of speech, and rule of law constitute key pillars of our strategic partnership. The emerging context of India-US political, strategic, security, and economic ties continues to be constantly shaped by international geopolitics, the strength of the Indian economy amidst global economic uncertainties, and the need for partnership among democracies to respond to some of the global challenges like terrorism. The narrative and specifics of substantive cooperative agenda, and shaped by increasing convergence of strategic interests and mutual concerns, including in the Indian Ocean region and the Asia Pacific. A strong intent to tailor the relationship to harness political synergies and optimize economic complementarities bilaterally, regionally, and globally permeates India's approach to its ties with the United States. And after hearing you, Secretary Kerry, I can clearly see much of that is similar in the US approach. One of the defining characteristics of our bilateral cooperative agenda since July last year has been purposeful action to implement the decisions agreed between the two leaders, 2 summit-level meetings, regular cabinet-level engagements, robust and frequent strategic consultations, and relentless domain-specific functional interactions have ensured that there is no slackening of effort and no dilution of focus in our engagement on bilateral, regional, and global issues. In this endeavor, the community of Americans of Indian origin and more than 100,000 Indian students studying in the United States provide us an organic, living bridge in the dynamic partnership. To strengthen this further, India would be hosting the regional Pravasi Bharatiya Divas in Los Angeles in November this year. We have also sought to view the economic space of bilateral engagement as a crucial component of our strategic relationship. We firmly believe that an economically prosperous and successful India offers a long-term opportunity to the US industry and capital to deepen its mutually beneficial partnership with India through investment in technology and manufacturing. Defense and security cooperation, strategic political engagement, including in the field of civil nuclear cooperation, science and technology, health, space, energy, trade and investment are some of the domains where we have intense delivery-oriented engagement. In some other domains, though creativity and sharper focus would ensure that we meet mutually agreed objectives and targets. This dialogue provides us the opportunity to assess where we stand in terms of the goals that we had set for ourselves and set new targets and objectives for the future. It is also important that we give ourselves timelines to achieve the targets. We should also be in a position to present to our leaders a clear vision of the road ahead. As I said, these are busy times in our relationship. With Sanjha Prayas, Sabka Vikas. We indeed look forward to busier schedule in months ahead. Thank you, Secretary Kerry, once again. We look forward to frank and truthful discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. I appreciate it. Now, Secretary.
Thank you, Secretary Kerry, and thank you, Minister Swaraj.